June 13, 1944, 05:42 a.m. A hedgerow corridor outside Villers-Bocage, Normandy. Morning mist hangs low and heavy, turning every field into a gray, breathing sea. Dew clings to tall grass. Hedges, ancient, impenetrable, form dark walls on both sides of a narrow dirt lane. And somewhere inside that fog, the war is about to shift, though none of the men here know it yet. Lone Panther Ausfga, engine rumbling like a slumbering animal, crawls forward at walking speed. Inside, Oberfeldwebel Hans Raymer, a veteran gunner from the 2nd SS Panzer Division Das Reich, peers through his TZF-12A sight, irritated by the weather, the mud, and the constant warnings about enemy armor. Enemy armor. Shermans. Almost laughs. To him, like most German tankers, the name Sherman means one thing: easy prey. Tall, gasoline-smelling, thin-skinned machine the Germans mockingly called it Tommy's Zippo. Tank that burned too easily, shot too softly, and died far too quickly. Turns to his commander, Untersturmführer Karl Behringer, sitting half upright in the turret cupola, binoculars raised. "Another report of Shermans ahead, sir," Raymer mutters. "Maybe today's entertainment," Behringer smirks. "Unless they've grown claws overnight, they won't trouble us." Panther halts at the edge of a hedgerow break, just wide enough to give a view down a distant field. The sun finally lifts above the fog, and a soft amber beam cuts across the countryside. And that's when Raymer sees it. Nearly a kilometer away, angled slightly, hull down behind a rise. A perfect target. Raymer steadies his sight. Range, approximately 1,200 meters. Routine. Easy. Comfortable enough to be boring. He calls it in. Behringer nods. The Panther's 75mm KWK-42 gun elevates smoothly. But then, just as Raymer begins to settle into the familiar rhythm of the shot, something strange happens. A flash. Bright. Sudden. But not from his own muzzle. The sound hits a half-second later, a shrill, slicing crack tearing the air apart. "What was that?" Behringer snaps, ducking instinctively. Shermans don't fire like that. They don't reach out this far. They don't make his instincts scream that something is horribly wrong. Then, impact. A deafening metallic shriek rips through the Panther's side armor. The entire tank jolts sideways. Tools clatter, dust rains from the turret roof. Someone swears. Someone else screams. Raymer's breathing stops. That came from them?" he stammers. Behringer doesn't answer. He's frozen, staring at the long, thin vapor trail still hanging in the morning air. A trail that only one kind of gun could have made. And suddenly, the rumors he heard, quiet whispers from prisoners, intercepted fragments from intelligence briefings, slam into his chest. A new British modification. A gun unlike anything a Sherman should carry. A tank that Germans had dismissed as a joke. The Firefly. The 17-pounder's first hit hadn't penetrated. Not fully. The angle saved them, but every man inside the Panther knows the truth. The next shot will kill them. Behringer shots to reverse. Raymer tries to transverse the turret. The driver throws the gearbox into gear, treads screeching. Too slow. Again, that impossible flash from a mile away. Another round tears through the hedgerow like a spear of white fire. The Panther crew never sees the third shot. Only the brilliant flash as their fuel ignites. Only the splitting, mind-shattering roar as steel opens like paper. The wreck burns violently, sending up a tall black column that twists into the sky, a signal visible for kilometers. To the Germans, it looks like a bad omen. To the British Firefly crew, it is simply confirmation. The battlefield has changed. For the first time since the war began, the hunters are now the hunted. And across the ridge, inside that unassuming Sherman Firefly, Lieutenant John Gorman lowers the still-hot breech of the 17-pounder, smoke filling the turret. He exchanges a silent look with his gunner, one part satisfaction, one part disbelief. Because even they hadn't expected the hit from that far. But somewhere deeper in Normandy, inside the command tents of the SS Panzer divisions, the shockwaves of this single shot are already beginning to spread. What else can this toy Sherman do? What happens when the British unleash dozens of them? And what will the German High Command do when they realize their prized Panthers are no longer invincible? The Firefly's kill still flickers on the horizon, an oily black pillar rising like a monument in the morning sky, when word reaches the nearest German forward command post. At first, the report is dismissed as exaggeration, another panicked battlefield message distorted by fear and terrain. But then the second call arrives. And the third. And the fourth. Each one carries the same impossible claim. A Sherman destroyed a Panther at extreme range. Penetration from over a kilometer. Multiple hits. Accurate. Fast. Inside a commandeered farmhouse south of Tilly-sur-Seine, Hauptmann Victor Hallmann, intelligence officer for Panzer Lehr Division, stands frozen over a field map. 2 candles burn on a wooden table, their flames trembling each time artillery thuds in the distance. The air smells of damp earth, sweat, and diesel. Hallmann presses his fingers against his temples. "Impossible," he mutters. "The enemy doesn't have the metallurgy. The British don't have the doctrine. Shermans are not capable of this." Across the room, Oberstleutnant Friedrich Koenig, a battle-hardened staff officer with a reputation for blunt honesty, leans against the window frame. "You're thinking with last year's logic," he says coldly. "The enemy learns. The enemy adapts." Hallmann shoots him a glare. "Shermans don't outrange Panthers." Koenig holds up a captured British document, rain-soaked and stained with blood. It was taken from a knocked-out Cromwell the day before. "Maybe not a Sherman," Koenig says, "unless the British found a way to fit this." He taps the photograph clipped to the corner of the paper. A long, imposing gun barrel. Unmistakable muzzle brake. A massive breech block the size of a small engine. The 17-pounder. Hallmann feels his throat tighten. He had heard whispers, rumors from the Italian front, mutterings from intelligence briefings, but he never believed they'd actually done it. Fitting such a huge gun into a Sherman required ripping out the loader's space, reshaping the turret, reworking ammunition storage. A nightmare of engineering. A nightmare the British apparently had solved. Koenig lowers the paper. "They call it the Firefly." The word hangs in the air like smoke. Hallmann swallows hard. "How many?" Koenig stares out the window at the distant pillar of smoke rising from the destroyed Panther. "Enough," he answers quietly. "Enough to change today. Maybe tomorrow. Maybe..." He exhales slowly. "Maybe the entire campaign." A distant rumble interrupts them. Another explosion. Then another. Closer. Faster. Someone bursts into the room, muddy boots slanting across the wooden floor. "Sir, more Panthers hit near Lingriv. Long-range strikes again." Koenig's jaw tightens. "By Shermans?" "Yes, sir. At least 2 confirmed Fireflies. Their crews are engaging from hull-down positions at ranges we cannot match." He hesitates. "Our men are requesting permission to withdraw to secondary hedgerow lines?" Hallmann feels the room tilt. "Withdraw? From Shermans?" Koenig doesn't flinch. "Approve it." The messenger runs. Hallmann watches him go, then whispers, "If the Firefly can do this from a mile away, how do we counter it?" Koenig folds the British document sharply. "We adapt, or we die." Meanwhile, across several hedgerows and through the smoke-filled lanes of the Normandy countryside, Lieutenant John Gorman wiped soot from his forehead inside the cramped Firefly turret. His gunner, trooper gunner James Baldwin, still grips the 17-pounder's handwheel, knuckles white. "That shot was clean," Baldwin murmurs, stunned by his own accuracy. "Didn't think we could reach that far." Gorman gives a tight nod. Neither did they. Outside, British infantry cheer as they move past the still-burning German tank. Some tap the Firefly's armor as they go, offering quick nods of respect. To them, the Firefly is a miracle, an equalizer they desperately needed in a battlefield ruled by German armor. But Gorman's face remains tense. That was one Panther. There are dozens more. He knows the enemy will react. He knows the battlefield will shift again. The Germans may have underestimated the Firefly once, but they will never make that mistake twice. He climbs halfway out of the turret, scanning the tree line through binoculars. Somewhere ahead, hidden in the hedgerows and sunken lanes, more Panthers wait. And beyond them, tigers. The Firefly has struck the first blow, but the real fight is just beginning. And in the command tents of Panzer divisions, German officers are already rewriting their assumptions, recalculating every engagement range, every ambush plan, every armored doctrine they once believed unshakable. Because for the first time on the Western Front, the Sherman is no longer the hunted. It is the hunter, and the Germans, for all their confidence, have no idea just how much worse the day.
Inside the cramped turret of the Firefly, the crew feels the tension like a static charge. The interior smells of cordite, sweat, and the metallic tang of spent shell casings. Gunner James Baldwin wipes his brow, half listening to the rising engine growl in the distance. "Sounds like they're angry," he mutters. Gorman doesn't smile. They're not angry, they're regrouping. Outside, a thin line of British infantry digs in behind a hedgerow, rifles ready, Bren guns pointed down the lane. They can't see the approaching tanks yet, but they feel them. Every vibration in the soil, every ripple through the ground. And then it happens. A shape emerges at the far end of the corridor. Sleek, angular, intimidating. A panther. Followed by another. And another. Gorman ducks back into the turret. Driver, reverse 10 yards. Keep us in cover. Baldwin, sight on the lead panther. Don't fire until I say. The Firefly's engine growls as it slips backward into partial concealment behind a thick hedge that towers over the tank like a green fortress. The crew can barely breathe. They all know the truth. If the Panther spots them first, if its 75mm gun gets off even one accurate shot, there'll be nothing more than a flaming wreck in seconds. Across the hedgerow, inside the lead Panther, Untersturmführer Karl Holtzmann peers through his optics. His nerves burn. His crew has just received orders from Division Command. Find the Fireflies. Destroy them. Restore morale. Holtzmann's fingers tightened around the periscope handles. He forces himself to stay calm, scanning every hedgerow break, every rise, every unnatural patch of shadow. Range ahead, 200 meters, clear, his gunner murmurs. Holtzmann doesn't trust it. Not after what happened this morning. Not after seeing what the Firefly did to Raymer's Panther. We hold here, Holtzmann orders. Driver, halt! The Panther's engine coughs, then settles into a menacing idle. The second and third Panthers fan out behind him, forming a staggered assault line. German infantry moves up the flanks, slipping between hedgerows and old stone walls. Holtzmann's second-in-command approaches his tank from the right, crouching low. Sir, Division insists the British armor is light. They believe only one Firefly is active in the sector. Holtzmann scoffs bitterly. Division believes what keeps them comfortable. I believe the burning holes I saw. He returns to his optics. Something feels wrong. Too quiet. Too still. As if the British are holding their breath. Then, movement. Just a flicker. A brief shimmer of light reflecting off glass or steel. Holtzmann freezes. Enemy tank, left, 10 o'clock. Partial cover. The gunner swings the turret. But it's already too late. A flash blooms from the bushes. A long white spear of smoke trails across the field. Holtzmann's heart stops. Firefly! The 17-pounder round slams into the barrel collar of the second Panther, blasting it sideways. Sparks and flame erupt as the gun assembly shatters, snapping the weapon uselessly upward. The tank jerks to a halt, black smoke billowing from the turret seam as the crew scrambles to escape. Chaos. Shouting. Panic. Holtzmann whips back to his sight. Find it! Find it! But the Firefly is already relocating. Inside the British tank, Baldwin is breathing hard, adrenaline surging. His shot crippled the second Panther, but the other two are moving, fast. Gorman leans out of the turret, yelling down to his driver. Forward! 40 yards! Get us behind that orchard wall! The Firefly lurches ahead, treads grinding through soft mud, branches scraping the hull. They dive behind a stone orchard boundary just as a Panther shell obliterates the hedge where they were seconds ago. The explosion shakes the earth. Leaves rain down. Pebbles rattle off the Firefly's armor like hail. Close one, Baldwin whispers. Gorman's voice is steady, but grim. They're learning. They won't give us a second chance. He scans through the broken gaps in the orchard wall and spots the lead Panther advancing cautiously, turret sweeping side to side like a predator sniffing the wind. Baldwin? Wait for it. Wait. The Panther turns its hull slightly, its side armor, thinner than the front, slides into perfect view. Now! The Firefly's 17-pounder roars. The shell streaks across the orchard in a beam of white smoke, straight through the Panther's side. Inside Holtzmann's tank, the world explodes into a white-hot storm of sparks and screaming steel. The round penetrates just beneath the turret ring, igniting fuel lines and ammunition. Fire bursts through every seam. Holtzmann doesn't even hear himself scream as he's thrown against the turret wall. Outside, the crew flings open hatches, leaping into the dirt, some on fire, others dazed and bleeding. But the tank, that proud, feared machine, burns violently, smoke curling into the sky like the morning's first kill. Behind it, the third Panther slams into reverse, its crew realizing the truth. They cannot win this fight. Not today. Not at these ranges. Not against this enemy. Back inside the Firefly, the crew sits stunned. The orchard is quiet now, except for the crackle of burning armor and the distant thunder of artillery. Baldwin exhales shakily. 2 Panthers, In 1 day? Gorman stares into the drifting smoke. No, he says softly. 2 Panthers in 1 hour. He knows what this means. His commanders know what this means. And soon, very soon, Germany will know too. The Firefly isn't just a weapon. It is a message. A message written in burning steel. Lead Panther. Baldwin steadies the 17-pounder. Evans braces for recoil. The moment hangs suspended in the humid air. Then, crack. The Firefly roars. The round flies straight and true, a streak of white smoke slicing across the field. It hits the Panther's turret front, not its thickest point, but not its weakest either. The result is immediate, a violent spark. A spout of flame, a plume of black smoke bursting skyward. The Panther's turret locks in place, jammed. Its engine chokes. Infantry scatter around it like startled birds. The second Panther swings its turret toward the muzzle flash, but Gorman has already ordered the Firefly back into concealment. 1 shot. Disappear. Reposition. Strike again. They are no longer fighting tank versus tank. They are fighting patience versus panic. Skill versus arrogance. Calculation versus assumption. Inside the Firefly, the crew waits in dead silence. 5 seconds. 10. 20. The German tanks creep forward, searching desperately, firing blind into the hedgerows, their commanders shouting conflicting orders. Gorman smiles faintly. Baldwin, let's make this the longest day of their lives. The Firefly rolls out again, just inches this time. Another flash, another scream of steel, another Panther crippled. The Germans are stunned, confused, broken. For the first time on the Western Front, their tanks are trapped in a game they are losing, and the Firefly, this cramped, improvised, toy Sherman with a gun too big for its own turret, is rewriting every rule they thought they owned. The battlefield has officially tilted, and it isn't tilting toward Germany. For a full 10 seconds, no one in the Panther platoon moves. Smoke from the burning lead tank rolls across the wheat like a drifting storm. The gunner inside the second Panther, Unteroffizier Paul Richter, yells into the intercom, demanding a firing solution, demanding anything that explains how a Sherman just reached across the valley and killed their point vehicle in a single shot. But the American tank is nowhere. No silhouette, no muzzle flash, just the thump of distant artillery and the glow of their burning comrade. The Panther commander, Oberfeldwebel Otto Gerlach, wipes soot from his goggles and scans again. His own crew waits for the next order, tense, silent, gripping the edges of their seats. Flanking attack? Richter mutters. Impossible, Gerlach snaps back. No Sherman gun has that range. But then, another flash. A thin, needle-like streak cuts across the horizon. Impact. The second Panther shudders as the 17-pounder round punches through its mantlet. A burst of sparks, a scream, and the hatch blows open as black smoke gushes out. The turret slumps like a wounded animal. Gerlach feels something icy slide down his spine. This isn't artillery. This isn't luck. Someone out there is hunting them. Across the valley, hidden behind a collapsed barn, Lieutenant Harris steadies himself. The Firefly's 17-pounder recoils again, the entire turret trembling. He doesn't cheer. He doesn't celebrate. He just keeps scanning. 1 Panther left, somewhere in the haze. Corporal Hughes breathes hard in the loader seat, sweating despite the cool morning. What's the Kraut thinking now? He asks. Harris doesn't look away from the sight. He's thinking, we can't see him. A pause. He's wrong. On the German side, panic finally cracked through the last Panther's steel discipline. Reverse! Reverse! Gerlach shouts, pounding the side of the turret. The driver slams the gearbox, treads churn backward, tearing up earth as the Panther tries to tuck itself behind a hedgerow. Too late. The Firefly's gunner has already tracked them, reading dust clouds, movement direction, angle, and the faintest glint of armor. He breathes out, squeezes, recoil, a thunderclap across the valley. The round travels nearly a mile. Gerlach glimpses it for a fraction of a second, a silver flash, then a blinding eruption. The Panther bucks violently as the shell rips through its side armor, detonating ammunition. Flames roar out of the hull like a dragon exhaling fire. The last Panther crew bails out, scrambling through the mud as the tank becomes a blossoming inferno behind them. Gerlach stumbles, looks back at the burning wreck, then at the empty horizon. There was no Sherman gun that could do this, he whispers, but reality crackles in the flames behind him. The Firefly has rewritten every rule the Germans believed, and this is only the beginning. because within 48 hours, German High Command will receive a report that sends shockwaves all the way to Berlin. Rain taps against the tent canvas as Major Dietrich Hartmann reads the new frontline casualty log. 3 Panthers, 3 destroyed, all from extreme range. He reads the numbers again and again. Range verified, asks he quietly. Yes, Major. The adjutant swallows. Over 1,500 meters for the first 2, possibly more. He stops breathing for a moment. This shouldn't be possible. The Sherman 75mm gun couldn't penetrate Panther frontal armor beyond 400 meters, often not even that. Every German officer knew this. It was doctrine, fact, reality. Yet here are 3 Panthers torn open like tin toys, struck by a weapon they weren't even aware existed 2 weeks ago. He flips to the second page. The handwritten testimony from Oberfeldwebel Gerlach is precise, clinical, and trembling at the edges. Gunfire penetrated at distances previously considered impossible. Enemy tank silhouette consistent with Sherman type. Suspect new Allied anti-tank weapon. Confidence shaken among crews. Confidence shaken. Hartmann feels a chill. If Panther crews lose confidence in their armor, the backbone of German offensive capability, the entire front could fracture. He turns to his staff. Get this to Corps Command immediately.
(1432 hours southwest of Tilly-sur-Seine. Gerlach positions his Panther in a sunken lane, concealed beneath overhanging trees. Camouflage nets drape across the hall. Branches mask the turret silhouette. He's building a trap, a brutal, elegant one, a deadly corridor of fire, one the Fireflies must cross to advance toward the village. He studies his map. A single hedgerow gap, barely 10 meters wide, sits exactly where Allied armor must funnel through, a perfect killing zone. His driver whispers, "Sir, what if they see us first?" "They won't," Gerlach says. But he doesn't sound like he believes it. The sky darkens as a storm moves in. Thunder rolls across the fields. The moment feels biblical, as if the land itself is holding its breath. Then, faintly at first, comes the deep rumbling echo of engines. Sherman's. Multiple. Gerlach's heartbeat quickens. He raises his binoculars, and through the sheets of falling rain, he sees it. A long barrel, boxy turret, white Allied star smeared with mud. A Firefly. His jaw clenches. "This time," he whispers, "I fire first." But he doesn't yet. He waits. Watching. Calculating. Because something about this Firefly feels wrong. Too deliberate. Too calm. Too confident. As if it is hunting him. Gerlach's fingers freeze above the trigger order, and then, in the next instant, he realizes the horrifying truth. He didn't set the trap. He stepped into one. The rain hammers down now, slicking the dirt lanes and turning hedgerow roots into treacherous traps. Visibility drops to mere tens of meters, but the Firefly moves with deliberate precision. Lieutenant John Gorman's voice is calm inside the cramped turret, almost eerily so. "Baldwin, wait for my signal. Don't fire yet." Outside, Corporal Evans loads another 17-pounder round, muscles trembling, sweat mixing with the rain. Every man feels it, that electric tension crawling along the spine. This isn't just a firefight. This is a game of life and death, and only one side will leave this hedgerow intact. Gerlach creeps forward in his Panther, every inch calculated, every shadow scanned for threats. He can't see the Firefly yet, only sense it. Reports, whispers from the morning skirmishes, and burned Panthers haunt him. This toy tank is no longer a rumor. It is real, and it is deadly. He takes a deep breath and whispers to his gunner, Karl Brunner, "Fire on my mark. Destroy it before it moves." But Gorman sees them first. Even through the sheets of rain, the subtle glint of German optics, the faint silhouette of treads and mud, give them away. "Lead Panther, range 400 meters, Gorman murmurs. Baldwin adjusts the sights. Evans braces. The Firefly's 17-pounder roars. The round travels like lightning, cutting through the rain, a long streak of white smoke and steel. Impact. The lead Panther shudders violently, turret jammed, engine sputtering smoke.
Gerlach's heart leaps into his throat as he watches sparks erupt from his tank. He barks orders frantically, but the world narrows to the sight of the enemy Firefly slipping from cover like a ghost. Another shot follows almost instantly. Another Panther succumbs. Flames erupt, twisting steel screaming against the sky. Gerlach realizes the staggering truth. The Firefly isn't just engaging targets, it is predicting them, anticipating them, controlling the battlefield. The rain lashes harder, making every movement perilous. Mud clings to Gerlach's boots, caking tracks that betray their position. Another round whistles past his turret, thudding into the embankment mere meters away. The forest echoes with fire and thunder. Inside the Firefly, Gorman lowers the breech after the second hit. He doesn't cheer. He doesn't even breathe out loud. His eyes are locked on the battlefield, reading the Germans' hesitation, their panic, their fear. Evans whispers, "Sir, they've never seen anything like this." Gorman nods slowly. "Neither have we, but we'll make sure they remember it." From the German side, orders come too late. Division command is desperate, shouting through scrambled radios to avoid engagement, to retreat, to hold position. But the damage is done. The Firefly has rewritten every expectation. Panther crews are hesitating, questioning their training, their armor, their doctrine. Confidence has shattered. Gerlach slams the hatch shut and leans back against the turret wall, drenched, teeth gritted. For the first time, he feels vulnerable. The hunter has become the hunted, and the scales of this battlefield have tipped irrevocably. Outside, smoke curls upward from burning Panthers, black against the gray storm clouds. The hedgerows are littered with wreckage, shattered guns, and the scattered remnants of confidence. And through it all, the Firefly remains unseen, moving methodically, calculating, striking. Gorman whispers to himself, "They thought they could trap us, but they were wrong." Across the field, German officers are already rewriting their assumptions. Armor superiority, range calculations, engagement doctrine, all of it must change. The Firefly has not only killed tanks, it has destroyed belief. And belief, in war, is everything. The battlefield will never be the same. Night falls over Normandy. The rain has ceased, leaving the fields a slick, dark mirror reflecting distant flashes of artillery. The once pristine hedgerows are torn and muddy, strewn with wreckage and scorched earth. The German survivors huddle in the shadows, whispers of disbelief passing between them. Oberfeldwebel Gerlach sits on the edge of a destroyed Panther hull, hands over his face. The events of the day churn in his mind. 3 tanks lost, all by a single Sherman. A vehicle they had mocked, a weapon they had never even anticipated. "Am I seeing this?" mutters Unteroffizier Richter, still trembling. Gerlach doesn't answer. He can't. Every Panther crewman knows it. The battlefield has changed. Forever. Berlin, 2200 hours. Reports are pouring into OKH. Intelligence officers read through first-hand accounts from Normandy, photographs of destroyed Panthers, and the testimonies of prisoners of war. Every line spells the same chilling reality. Shermans with a long-range gun are killing German tanks from distances previously thought impossible. Crews report accuracy and precision beyond expectation. German armor domination is broken. One colonel stands before the map in his office, staring blankly. His hand trembles as he traces the lines where German units were destroyed. "A Sherman?" he whispers to himself. "A Sherman?" The report slides across his desk. A single line in bold underlined text. Extreme caution advised. Enemy weapon exceeds expectations. Reevaluate armor doctrine immediately. For the first time, he realizes the West may no longer be dominated by Panther or Tiger tanks. The Allies have found a counter. The Firefly is not just a tank, it is a symbol, a revelation. Back in Normandy, Lieutenant John Gorman crouches behind the Firefly's hull as dawn begins to break. Smoke curls upward from the remains of the Panther line, and the faint morning light casts long shadows across the muddy fields. Baldwin leans back, exhausted. "Sir, did we just change the course of the campaign?" Gorman doesn't answer immediately. He looks out across the battlefield, sees German soldiers regrouping, retreating, panicked. He sees the Firefly shells smoking in the distance. Finally he whispers, "Not the course, but their expectations. Today we killed more than tanks. We killed their certainty." Evans nods slowly, understanding. War is not just fought with steel and ammunition. It's fought with belief, fear, and the perception of power. In the weeks that follow, German units report hesitancy in every engagement. Panthers hesitate, Tigers overcompensate, and officers debate endlessly whether traditional doctrine can survive the Firefly's reach. Allied forces capitalize on this confusion, advancing more boldly, pressing the advantage that one single innovative vehicle had created. The battlefield had shifted, and there would be no turning back. The Firefly was no longer a toy. It was a revelation. And for the first time in Western Europe, German armor was forced to fight defensively, unsure, afraid, and fundamentally changed. Across Normandy, a new reality settles in. One small British innovation, a Sherman with a 17-pounder gun, had shattered the myth of German invincibility. And from disbelief to awe, shock to horror, the war would never see tanks the same way again. The smoke is cleared. Normandy's fields are quiet now, but the echoes of the Firefly's impact linger in every burned hull and scorched hedge. Allied troops move cautiously, cleaning the battlefield, counting bodies and documenting destroyed German armor. But among them, the Firefly crews carry a quiet thrill, a quiet knowledge that they have changed the rules of engagement forever. Lieutenant John Gorman steps out of the turret, rain-soaked and covered in mud. His boots sink slightly in the soft earth, and he surveys the battlefield like a general at the end of a storm. 3 Panthers destroyed. 3 more Panthers reported retreating. And across the line, he knows the Germans are reassessing, recalculating